Hey everyone, Doc Allie here today to discuss the road to residency. Stay tuned. Guys, it is residency interview season and it is a crazy time. And people will tell you that it is a crazy time, but they don't really, I don't think, make it clear why it's a crazy time. So for me, for instance, I'm in a gap year, which we're going to discuss more further. But for anyone, I believe this would be a very hard time if you're in medical school still and trying to balance electives and residency interviews. If you're working full-time like me and you're trying to balance residency interviews and your job and then your social life and then your health and then all these things coming together, it's a lot. And no one really makes that clear why it's a lot. So let's talk more about that. The biggest thing that I've struggled with residency interview season is just knowing how to time everything. So I think they told me a little bit because I'm in this group called Next Gen Peds, which tries to promote and support the underrepresented who are pursuing a career in pediatrics. So they told us that the interviews can be long, and I think maybe they said 5 to 6 hours. I don't remember exactly what they said, but I did not expect for this to be real. Like, I didn't think that I'd be having to sit on a computer for 6 hours straight, 7 hours, talking to people. And it seems like it shouldn't be that hard. It's okay. And it's like, no, it is exhausting, okay? So I can't imagine, if it's exhausting for me, imagine the people who are hosting these interviews. So the program directors, the residents that they keep calling on, the program coordinators, everybody. I cannot imagine their strength throughout interview season. Like, how do they do this? Because me, I'm glad it's a one and done. We pray. I'm glad it's a one and done because I could not do this again. No thanks. We can talk about is definitely going to be personal statements, because I know that this is something that I went to the drawing board about 100 times with. Personal statements have to be your story. They have to be, why are you you? Who are you aside from medicine? So it's cool to tell your backstory behind why you, it's not even cool. It's necessary that you tell why you're becoming a doctor, what passion lies behind the specialty you're pursuing, but also, who are you outside of medicine? Who are you outside of the doctor? So for me, I don't know. I'm a writer, right? So part of it came natural, but then part of it was also like a writer's block in the same breath. So telling my story, I was like, okay, this is my story. And then I was like, but it's not giving what I need it to give. Like, if I was reading this story, I would be bored. I would snooze it. So I was like, okay, let me try it again. And that's what personal statement time is going to be. It's going to be, okay, I'm going to write this draft, that draft, this draft. After all these drafts, what is still missing? What do I need to emphasize more? What do I need to make clearer? And the way that you get that is by reading your personal statement out loud. If you get bored listening to your story, please rewrite the personal statement. And another thing I forgot to mention, because I said I'm a writer, right? So I just went straight to the Google Drive and I just started typing out whatever, but maybe you're not a writer. And so what I learned from, I'm gonna give credit, Next Gen Peds, was that if you are not a writer naturally, what you can do is you can record and just tell your story, speak it, record it, take what you can from it, and then write that. And then that also is another way that you can approach it if you're not naturally bound to writing. Then you send it to people that you trust and you know are either good writers or going to give you honest feedback. Because I remember I thought I was done with my personal statement. I showed it to my friend Lexi. My friend Lexi was like, I think you could do better. And I was hurt. I was like, excuse you, I poured my blood, sweat, and tears into this. What do you mean I could do better? But I hate to admit it, she was right. And the thing you have to understand also when you're writing your personal statement is, I understand that it's your baby and you're going to want to nurture it and you're going to think that, okay, I birthed this baby, this is it, good. And then people are going to come to you and they're going to be like, you could fix this, you could change that. And there's going to be things that they're going to say, and you're going to have to really be like, okay, actually that's right. Maybe this does need to change, or maybe I do need to do that. But then there's also going to be times where it's like, you want me to get rid of this, but this is actually core to who I am. So maybe I can switch the way I say it. Maybe I can change the way it sounds. But if it's core to who you are and it's an important part of your story, then you don't have to get rid, or you don't have to take everyone's advice so literally. Because as for me, I know in Next Gen Peds, they told us to be careful of how many people's hands you let in the pot. So how many people you let read your statement, because that can be so many various different opinions of how this should be or how that should be. And it's like, it's nice to hear all of everyone's opinions, but it can also be very overwhelming, and it can also lead you down the wrong road or make you want to give up and cry. So what's important to do is, if you do hear from, like me, I think I heard from like 8 different people. I heard from some people in the medical field, so I had an attending read it, I had a resident read it, I had my schoolmate read it, I had my parents read it, I had a mentor slash woman who's very experienced in personal statements read it. And after everyone's opinions, I just had to pick out what I knew was probably going to help me. So yes, what you're saying about that is right. What they said about that, I need to change. But also, I'm not going to get rid of this, because this is who I am, and this is an important part of my story. I keep saying that, and I'm not being very true about it, right? So let me tell you. Hopefully after match season, I could like show y'all my personal statement, and then you could work with it, and maybe we could like break it down, and I could bring my my advisor on, who's like great at personal statements and has helped me since the beginning of time, since back when I was in college, and that's like several years ago, over almost a decade at this point. So it's like, I'm gonna bring her on, and she could tell y'all about things and like help us break it down. But basically my story, what's core to who I am, is I was a tennis player since I was 3 years old. And being a tennis player since a young age means that I have an athletic spirit. And this athletic spirit didn't necessarily love tennis. I played tennis for my parents. I played sometimes for fun. Even nowadays, like everyone asks me, well, do you still play tennis? And it's like, no, God, no, I don't. I think there's like a trauma or trigger with tennis sometimes with me. But no, I don't really play tennis anymore because it's just not my jam. However, I am very athletic. Like, it's just still who I am. So when I was on the islands, I was doing CrossFit with my schoolmates. And when I came to clerkships in Chicago, I discovered spin bike. And it has been over 2 years, and I have not gotten off my spin bike. And I think it gradually progressed, because I used to do like 2 days of like free weights and then the 1 day of cycle class. And now it's like 3 days of cycle class, or 1 day of free weights and 2 days of cycle class. And yes, I only work out 3 days a week. But baby, let me see you do 3 days of spin class and say I could do 4 or 5. And if you can, you are amazing, but I am not her. I cannot commit to that level of athleticism. However, I am a spin fanatic. I don't see myself ever giving up on spin. I actually, quite honestly, quit my gym membership because my dad bought us a spin bike for the house. So that all goes to say, it's core to who I am. And so when I'm telling in my personal statement about CrossFit and about cycling, neither my friend or my dad are spinners or CrossFitters or anything athletic. I'm just going to put it out there. My dad maybe used to be an athlete back in the day, and my friend used to swim back in the day, but none of them understand what that is to my being, right? And so they were like, you could talk less about this. Like, does this really have to do with pediatrics? And I'm like, yeah, it does, because I care so much about health and fitness and health and wellness that I want to be able to instill in children the importance of health and wellness. As a pediatrician, my job is to shape the coming generations. I'm supposed to help people want to be healthy. There is an impeding obesity crisis in children. Like, I witnessed children 7, 8, 9 years old getting diagnosed with high blood pressure. It's my role to stop that. Do you want to see an 8-year-old on medications for high blood pressure? You know? So it's just like, if I can prevent that with my passion, and I will never forget one interviewer was like, yeah, I could tell it's your passion. If I could prevent that with my passion of health and wellness, then imagine that I need to emphasize this in my personal statement. what else does me being a CrossFitter, or I'm sorry, I'm not a CrossFitter anymore. I stopped that on the island. But what does me being a spinner have to do with me as a pediatrician, or me as a resident, or me as a doctor? And the answer to that question is, I have a persistent spirit. When times get tough, when stuff gets hard, I'm not gonna stop. I'm not gonna quit. I don't quit on the spin bike when I'm on that climb. I don't quit on the spin bike when the sprints are killing me and I feel like I'm about to pass out. No, I push because I know at the end something great rewards me, right? I feel amazing. I've gotten stronger. My mind knows that half of my limits are in here. So that all goes to say, as you can see, I got really lit up, right? So that all goes to say that that was something I wasn't gonna cut down. I know they asked me, like, does this really need its own paragraph? Yes, it did, and it does, and it that personal statement reached several programs, right? So, and I'll never forget, it's been like several interviews where it's like, we're just sitting there talking about spin bike, or we're sitting there talking about childhood obesity or my passions. And I think that's really what they want when they interview you. They want to really know, what are you passionate about? What do you care so much about? And why do you want to do this? And again, I'm going to do all this conversations, preparations for interviews in another video, but I just want to emphasize how important it is that if something is core to you and core to your passion, don't take it out of your personal statement, because it can like reach out to people throughout the personal statement. So yes, I got very fortunate and I got interviewed by people who are spinners as well, and people who like to read. I never really said in my personal statement that I like to read, but like I've said it during like meet and greets. I've said it on my application, like under hobbies, I think it was. So it's like people know me as more than just a kid who's trying to be a doctor. They know me as this girl who's a spin fanatic, who cares about childhood obesity crisis, who reads in her free time. Like, what a nerd. But I had a resident that I spoke to just about books we like to read and stuff like that. So, you know, be honest on your application, be truthful, be transparent, talk about these things. Guys, again, we're going to talk more about it, but like I had to talk about why I didn't pass the first time in medical school. In almost all of my interviews, I think it was, I spoke to everyone about, not everyone, but like at least one interviewer would ask me on each of the program's calls, so what about this? Why did you fail the first time in medical school? And some of them were kind enough. They did a little sweet spin to it, like, you were so successful afterwards, like, I just want to know what happened the first time. And you gotta be honest, and you gotta open up your heart and tell people the truth. I think made an interviewer cry because she was like, oh my gosh, that story is so touching. And I was like, yeah, it's a great story. You guys, if you don't know it, go check out like my first or second video. I don't know, this channel is a little old at this point, right? But I hope that this was helpful. It's just one of the many videos we're going to produce for the road to residency, and then hopefully very soon we'll be talking about match day experiences. But stay tuned, guys. Any questions or comments, drop them in the chat, in the comments. And what else? Oh yeah, subscribe, like, and until next time, guys.